Well, welcome to Paris Paranormal and happy Thanksgiving Eve. We're so glad that you're with us today. I'm Terry Keel.
And I'm April Wilson.
That's right. And we are here to talk about an amazing thing that has been going on since 2008. Been talking about it, and we are going to bring a special guest in tonight. But we're glad that you've joined us tonight because we have such an educational, actually, story and pretty much frightening story to share with you. It's a true story. It's been very interesting. Steve Allen, who we're bringing in, has been on the History Channel, Coast to Coast, many times, Good Morning America, Larry King Live, O'Reilly Factor, and NPR, as well as National Geographic, and currently is being featured on Hulu, the UFO Investigation Part 2. And it's really going to be interesting to talk with him tonight. But first, before we bring him on, we'd like to get a little bit of a backstory for you back from when all this happened. And he was interviewed locally. And so we're going to run a little video we hope that you'll enjoy, and it'll tell you all about Steve and what he saw, and then we'll bring him on.
First, call the news media to their attention, yes.
Yeah?
Yep.
What happened? What have you seen?
I saw it coming from the east, had two bright lights on it, come by us, changed shapes and positions, and right over Stephenville here. And then it disappeared. And then when it reappeared, it had two F-16 jets chasing it.
Where it happened? Exactly. Where was it?
About 10 miles east of town out there.
Can we go there?
Let's take you to the location.
Okay, let's go there.
Well, we was up on the hill right there, very high point. You could see either way, 20 miles either way from up there when we was burning.
You were there?
Yes.
But why were here?
This is where the location where we saw it at.
Yeah.
When we saw
Well,
it.
I mean, you were there just...
Yeah, I just, my compadres live here, and I come over one afternoon after
their
work.
ranch.
See, yeah, this is their place, and we get together and talk every once a week, you know, and try to solve the mysteries of the world or problems. And yeah, and so while we was up there, and we had a little campfire going, and that's when we looked off to the east and saw the lights coming at us at a very high rate of speed. And they continued on and went towards Stephenville, and that's where they stopped. They just stopped out that way. When it came by, it wasn't but about like this, about a half a mile wide and about 1 mile long. Invisible. All you could see is the very bright lights, as large as your car.
Where are them? They're here?
Yes, they're inside there. Yep, let me see if we can get somebody out there. As it come by, it was going very fast when we first saw it, and then it started slowing
Both
down.
of them kind of.
Yeah, all at the same time, you know, very parallel, even, same altitude. Then as it comes by, all the lights in the rear reconfigured, and then it went like this, and then that's when each set of lights burst into flames about 50 yards wide and about 150 yards tall, and then 2 seconds later it's gone.
There were flames also?
Yes, very bright white flames. And like I said, it was right out there.
So they come
about where those birds are, is about where a little further over than that.
Did they come very slow first?
Yeah, it was very fast, and then as it's coming in, it started slowing down, and it came to a complete stop.
Stop.
Yeah, and that's when the lights reconfigured.
And then it disappeared.
Yes, and then disappeared.
It took 3 minutes.
Yeah, from the time we first saw it until it come by, 3 minutes, yeah.
Well, it was definitely an unidentified flying object. It came from back off from the west, back off out in this direction, kind of the southwest a little bit, and it came across the area at about 2,000 feet. It was bright red, kind of an oval-shaped object. It made no noise at all. The thing was as big as my house. Wow. And about 2,000 feet away and hovering in the air at a very slow rate of speed. after it came across a little ways, another one appeared back behind it. And they were pretty much identical. They were extremely bright, extremely red. It was the reddest thing I've ever seen in the sky. Probably 2,000 feet away and about 2,000 feet up, then it was large enough that I couldn't cover it with my thumb at that distance. And if you see anything at 2,000 feet away from you and stick your thumb up, you can cover a house with your thumb at that distance. This thing was as big as my house. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This thing was as big or larger than my house. There were two of them. They were perfectly silent. They came across at an angle, cutting directly across the wind. We had about a 30-mile-an-hour wind that evening, which was blowing right out of the north. It was sitting right on 32 degrees at the time. And these things seemed to pay no attention to the wind at all that was buffeting around that night. For them to be going at such a slow rate of speed and cutting directly across the wind like that just stuck out like a sore thumb.
Now, you said its general direction was headed to the airport?
No, the airport's right off over here. It was at a different angle. It wasn't headed straight toward the airport. It was headed more of an angle across this way. It didn't seem to even know the airport was there. From my position over here, I would see aircraft coming in to the airport all the time, and you see the angle they come in, and you see them, and you can identify them as aircraft quite easily from this distance. It's literally only a few blocks away to the airport. So these aircraft, some of the small aircraft in this area come in fairly low in this area, and they're easily identified as aircraft. Right. These were easily identified as not aircraft, and the huge size of them, they were rather bell-shaped. I don't want to incite that this was something other than it was, because it's unidentified. But if we looked at the old German bell from the World War II, then it looked almost identical to a bell, and it had an area around the bottom. There was something around the bottom of it, everything, but you couldn't tell what it was. It looked kind of like plasma around the bottom.
Wow.
Everything, like a ring of plasma around the bottom, everything, which later, when I looked at the German bell and on the internet, then it looked like the spitting image of it.
Wow.
Everything. Only it was larger. It was as large as my house. It was larger than what was shown on the internet, the old bell from there, everything. This thing was probably several times larger.
Right.
It didn't come to a complete stop, but almost. It probably wasn't moving any more than 10, 15 miles an hour at one point. And both of them were running together. They were both about 2,000 feet apart. They came across this area here, and when I looked up at one point, then there was one had gone past me, the other one was right up here, and I felt a little bit like a Pac-Man about to be eaten by the Pac-Man creatures. They were shaped about the same, and they were hovering over me about like this, and it gave me that feeling.
Well, there was the biggest, I mean, it was like the biggest light I've ever seen before. It's real bright, and it was huge, but then all of a sudden another bright light just shot off, like,
It all happened out over my house, actually, in Selden is where it took place. I raced across the sky, and it was hard to follow. I also heard that something showed up on a whole bunch of airport radar things. I never read anything about it in the paper. It came one way, and everyone saw it, and then like 10 minutes later, it shot back the same way with military aircraft in pursuit of it.
Wow.
But then I read in the paper that there was no military aircraft deployed at any point around Stephenville.
Yeah.
Who knows, man?
So from someone's perspective, that looked very much like a German bell. But, you know, several people, well, many people saw it, but most people saw that as a bright light the size of a house. And Steve, welcome to Paris Paranormal. Let's bring you in and get your take on it because you were an expert witness and have talked about this many times. So give us your story because this was definitely a bona fide sighting, and I need to hear your perspective. This was a 2008 Stephenville, Texas, and it was 32 degrees that night. Wow. Or day. What time of day was this?
It was first. Hi, Terry. Thank you for having me. Kevin,
Yes.
April, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you.
January 2008. It'd been cold all winter. One of my friends had called me and says, "You want to come over and enjoy the afternoon? We'll build a campfire up on the hill and just look at the stars and hang out, have some fellowship." So I said, "Sure, I'll head that way." So second I got there, I stepped out of my pickup and to light a cigar, and I dropped it, and I noticed some bright lights, real high intensity, coming at us at a high rate of speed from the east. And I said, "Are you guys seeing that?" And we was all fixated on it. It was so bright and close. It came by within about 2,500 foot of us. And it was a large craft, but you couldn't see the craft, but you could see the lights on the perimeter. And as it came by, here's where my paranormal plus experience or out of world, I felt like I was linked in with it. I don't know if it was attached to me, to my mind, or what. Gave me a peaceful, easy feeling, unlike anything I've ever had before. Kind of like a religious experience or a biblical experience is what I would attribute it to.
Awesome.
And I felt real relaxed as it went by. The lights reconfigured over Stephenville in several different positions, and then it just disappeared. And so one of the gentlemen that was with us, Lance Jones, was a rural postman. He didn't say anything. He just left. It flipped him out. So we go down to my buddy's house and told his wife, and she says she didn't believe us. And we invited her to call the gentleman that had just left, Lance, and she did. And he says, "Hurry up and run back outside. It's coming back by."
Oh,
and so
wow.
when it came back by, it had two F-16s real close to it, full afterburner, in full pursuit. And it was closer to us this time. It made the windows of the house rattle. You know,
Wow.
So we was closer. And I got an uneasy feeling at that point. I thought, why are we chasing it? You know, I went from a real easy feeling like of can't describe it to, are we in trouble, and why are we chasing that over civilian airspace? Because I
Good
fly
question.
I fly that area quite often, so just unusual to have that much air traffic.
Oh, wow. So you're a pilot as well.
Yes.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. You are a very interesting soul. Steve, so have you got any questions? I'll let you start.
Well, you said that you had that feeling of
Connected?
just very connected, and so that was my question was, did you feel like you were one with it? You could feel that it was peace.
Yes.
Which
It was more of a at peace or at one. Is like somebody had turned the pressure switch off. It's just, you know.
yeah.
Still can't describe it to this day.
Did you feel like you got downloads? Because a lot
I feel like
yeah.
that's very possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Pure speculation. I don't know. It's changed my life for the better. I think it was a blessing.
oh yeah. So you still see benefits of it.
Oh yes, yeah.
Was that your first experience?
First and last. It's not one of those things. oh, gee, there it is. It's not, but there is people that say it's quite frequent out in that area.
Yeah.
The constable has it on video quite often. So.
Wow. I wonder, what do you think is the reason why it's coming to that location? What do you think the draw is?
That's a loaded question. Pure speculation. And several people that the Japanese film crew came, and they came over several times, and they said, "What's the significance of Stephenville?" And I said, "It's the milk capital of the world." And I said, "Oh," and they started speaking Japanese to each other, and I couldn't understand them. And one of them spoke English. I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Well, they like milk. That's the reason they're coming here." And I'm thinking, how do you know they like milk or not? But anyway,
Yeah,
so
but
that's
we do
awesome.
know that they do cattle mutilation, or at least we suspect that that's a possibility, that there were many cases of cattle mutilation. I don't know if it was right there in Stephenville.
Have y'all
but-
had a lot of cattle mutilations there?
Well, there you go.
We had several, and I've come to the conclusion they probably made them a test tube cow and to get some milk, but they never anticipated what comes out the backside of it. They probably said,
Oh,
Good call.
that's a good point.
Well, and one thing that you mentioned I want to ask you about is the bright lights. They were very large. When we had talked earlier, you were sharing that these things were massive. And then that other man that was interviewed also said they were the size of a house. So we're not talking about a very tiny sports model as some people might say UFO, something that's more circular and smaller. This thing was massive, and you were awfully close to it. I'm wondering, did anybody get burned? Because you also mentioned that it burst into flames, and a lot of time I saw a craft which had a flame come out of the bottom of it back in '79, and that's very concerning that the fire was there. That's radiation burn possibilities. Was anybody burnt, or did you have anything that happened to you with that?
no, to the best of my knowledge, and when it did its flame transformation over Stephenville, that was about 3 miles away. Of course, we could see it as it came past us. We watched the whole thing, and I've been quoted as saying I had the best seat in the house. We was out in the country, so you couldn't hear it as it came past us, and we could see the whole thing as it came, and it came back by with the two F-16s.
So there actually was a sound to this particular ball of light, or no
He
sound.
said it was totally quiet.
Totally silent.
Mine was as well. That's very interesting, how they can move and manipulate the airspace.
I mean, it makes
and
you
yet
wonder if you didn't have lights, would you have even known it?
it was there. Yeah,
I mean, we could
Wouldn't
just
there-
walk out at any time, and there could be one.
could be
not
right
as I
there.
know it.
I think the radar report showed it at 2,100 miles an hour coming in and 1,900 going out.
wow. Okay, that's significant.
I could get somewhere really quick like that.
What's significant about it, though, Steve, is that it was moving that fast, and so many people didn't see it. So it's really kind of special. I've often wondered about crafts. They seem to reveal themselves to those that they will reveal to. You can have 100 people looking up,
Yeah.
and 10 will see it. The rest, the other 90 will not.
It's kind of like the old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher
Will
arrives.
come. Yeah. It's very
It's
interesting.
awareness.
Yeah,
It's like the redbirds,
yeah, absolutely. Well, and tell me, go ahead.
Hard to see if you don't look up. And those 10 that you said
Yes.
would see it, those will have a different story.
Exactly. It's like
perception.
what Kevin had said earlier. You can throw a beach ball up in the air, but depending on where you're standing, there's yellow, there's red, there's blue, there's white. Somebody's going to see the blue, somebody's going to see the white, somebody's going to see the red or the yellow. But it's the same beach ball. So it is a perspective thing. And, you know, the police officers that I've worked with in paranormal experiences have always said, 10 people can see that, 10 people will have a very different perspective. Yes. And yet, many of you there in Stephenville were saying exactly the same thing. You know, it was as big as a car when it was here, but then when it came closer, it was as big as a house. That is a huge craft, very powerful craft, you know, and I've often wondered, who's driving them, you know? Now, tell me, have you had any maybe dreams? Have you had any type of a connection with it while you're sleeping or even daydreaming? Because they do have that power to revisit us. What's gone on with you since that time?
You're about 1,000,000% correct. I had one dream since then, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, where I was asleep in my bed and I started just ascending, going straight up. And at about the 100-mile mark, I just kind of leveled off and I could see the lights of all the United States. And all of a sudden, off on both coasts equally, coming towards the center. And then it was just like at peace again. And I remember saying, see, I told you so. Because I'm one of those guys that think we could be in trouble. And I woke up, I had a chest, it felt like I had a heart attack. Somebody had hit me with a sledgehammer. And I thought, what, heart attack or what, you know? And I woke up and I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. But it was so surreal. I had an outer body experience. I'm 1,000,000% sure of it. So
absolutely.
Now, whether it was part of this UFO deal or not, you have an excellent point. I've never even connected that. Thank you, Terry.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, having had the experience myself, you know, back in '79, the love, like you're saying, that being one with that craft that was only 200 feet in front of me, was undeniably so surreal, so absolutely other than anything you could ever experience, you know, in life. And you know it's off-world. Nothing can hover over a railroad track like that, you know, and you couldn't hear anything. I mean, it was so quiet and peaceful and that oneness. And I kept saying, I feel like it's communicating with me, but I'm so happy and I'm okay. And then I looked down and I was like, you know, 2 feet off the ground. They have the ability to manipulate the moment, space, time, the whole 9 yards. And I'm sure if you were to do a regression therapy, you might find out a lot of information about what you actually experienced. Have you ever had one?
No, very possible. Karen Gresham Nichols of Dallas, who is a therapist that you've met, and she's passed away, God rest her soul.
Yeah.
But we never got together, so that's a definite good thought.
Yes, and there are others. I happen to know of a few that do regressions, and one thing about regressions is you have to make sure that you know that person and that they're not going to feed you anything that leads you in a wrong direction, so that you can just share what actually happened. That might be very interesting. Tell me about the F-16 fighters. How big were they? What was that all about?
Once it came past us the first time, it stopped over Stephenville, and then it did a 180-degree reverse course coming back. You know, you could count about 2 or 3 seconds, and the F-16s was after it, and they was about 1,000 foot above ground level. So they was real close, full afterburner. I mean, they was chasing it with vengeance. And that's what shook me up. I thought, gee, are we having a war of the worlds, or what's going on here? You know, what we couldn't see, the radar report showed more than 2 F-16s. It showed 10 F-16s in the area.
10?
And the government constantly was saying they didn't have any F-16s in the area.
Of
and they'd
course.
call reporter Angela Joyner different stories, and she'd run them past me, and I'd make some lewd remark, and I can't believe I do that nowadays, so it was
Yes.
kind of brazen of me. I'm wiser, hopefully, but anyway, they finally issued a press release that they did have 10 F-16s in the area. And it takes quite a crew to make a F-16 fly, much less 10 of them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so they're trying to tell us they didn't have track of 10 F-16s that was buzzing our area down there. And what was they doing down there? It's not a military operating area.
Exactly, and that's the point. That validates the fact that there was something very powerful going on, because
Oh, yeah.
our military wouldn't even get involved with 10 F-16s, if it wasn't something
Yeah.
otherworldly.
And then they want to
Yeah.
not tell the truth about it.
Right.
So-
Swamp gas, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you call them?
Swamp gas.
Swamp
Yeah.
gas. Swamp gas.
You mentioned Angelia Joyner. She was such a wonderful soul, and she has also passed away. So, it's interesting as we're talking. Time has gone on, and we are losing so many people that have these amazing stories. I am so grateful to have you on and have you sharing this, because we're starting to really lose the ones back from, like myself, the 70s, that have had these experiences, and 2000. And it's something for this next generation to take a look at, because we have many times been talking about them in paranormal realms and telling people these things are real. And
Absolutely.
they don't relate. They're not showing up perhaps as much as they once did. Have you had any other sightings there? I think you said no, but...
I haven't personally. Other people have. And what you might want to check out, I'm not a Netflix salesman personally, but Netflix Encounters has sightings from all over the world that's going on. And the first part of it is on the Stephenville part. They also cover Japan, Africa. The Africa story will rock you. There was 60 students that saw the same thing. So
Oh, that story is amazing. And that was in broad daylight.
Yeah.
The students that were in the classroom, and they all drew the pictures.
Right.
And all of them were identical.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yours was in the daytime as well, though.
The sun was going down. It was basically daylight with the sunset.
Yeah.
And makes ours real unique, is a lot of people seen it. I've become the UFO reporting hotline because people didn't trust any of the government agencies or other of the UFO reporting agencies. So I've become it. The next day or two, they'd put my phone number in the paper, which
Oh
I
my
requested.
Goodness.
I asked for it. Stupid me, but anyway, it's worked out.
Well, I don't think it was stupid at all. You were there to help humanity, and that's... Are you still collecting information today from that phone call post?
Calls from all over Mexico, Brazil. This Netflix special went to #1 overnight. So I get calls from everywhere every day, contacts. There's a lot of sightings in Mexico. That seems to be the most prevalent place.
It's a hot spot too.
I think the United States is a hot spot, Well, the world is a hot spot. They're here. That's all there is to say about it.
So, is it Mr. Dwayne that owns Blind Frog Ranch? He lives in Texas, and he had an experience where his daughter was healed in a hospital when a craft flew over. But he said there's something in the soil in Texas that was their interest there.
Had you heard that, Steve?
It's some type of metal.
Interesting. I haven't heard that. Haven't heard that one.
Yes, his story is amazing. He was actually, if you subscribe to Gaia TV, he was with Emery Smith on Cosmic Disclosure. And he did 5 interviews with him. And it was, I'm telling you, it was fascinating.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah.
So had you believed in UFOs before this happened? Was this something that you pretty much always believed in or had interest in?
I've never really been interested in it. I've always believed that, they're out of the millions of universes. We can't be the only ones out there. There's probably a lot of more intelligent life than we are, which wouldn't be a whole lot, but in jest. But yes, so after that, of course, I fly that airspace, and I think, gee, that'd be bad to run into that thing, whatever it is. I'd kind of like to know what it is, and I could just kind of made it a quest, and then I got to thinking about it. Gee, where's my updated technology? Because all I have is a piston engine car, and that's been in business for 100 years. And I can order a cell phone, and before I get it, it's out of date. So,
Isn't that the truth? I know. Well, tell me, how did you get onto these talk shows? Because you had put your phone in the paper, people were just reaching out?
Just the exposure.
People's just interested in it. They're ready for disclosure, ready to release the technology before we annihilate ourselves. Just put it bluntly, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Well, what was it like to be with Larry King?
He is genuinely interested. I thought him or O'Reilly Factor would tear me up. I thought, here we go. I've seen what they do to people, and I warned them, their producers. I said, I'm not going to take a lot of, I can take some, but don't kill me. But boy, they was genuinely interested. They was as interested as I was.
They probably had experiences, if you'll know the truth.
Maybe.
Most people I have found have had an experience and they just don't want to tell it.
Rocks them. Yep.
Yes, and I definitely want to watch the History Channel.
So,
that
do
they
y'all
put
still
out.
go up and watch the stars and build bonfires?
Oh, still do. We still do.
So y'all are just waiting for another one.
Another bonfire we had this year on the Netflix Encounters was at a bonfire up there. It's just beautiful.
So this show.
Come on down.
So the show that you have on Netflix is called
Encounters.
Okay. I'm going to check that out.
And then National Geographic has run his story as well. And you've been on Coast to Coast. Yeah,
I love George Norrie.
Yes, that's wonderful.
George and I run into each other everywhere from Laughlin to Chicago, I think.
Yes. I've run into him everywhere as well. Him and Cheryl Jones, I'm telling you, they are the best.
There you go.
Are you close to the Marfalites?
I went by there quite often, but not. I've never seen anything out there.
No.
It's a long.
Okay. And have you ever done any of the CE5 gatherings to see about calling them in? Now, I have heard that is very well received, and myself, Kathy Marden, Denise Stoner, and Rebecca Renfro, which we just had her on the other day, Rebecca Renfro-Borneman, we did call a craft in. And,
cool.
It was wonderful, and we were able to get tones, which she wrote a piece for that is being used for Mark D'Antonio's presentations that he does. And that was all given to us, different tones for each one of us. And then we put it together. She created a song, which, everybody says that these extraterrestrials and these UFOs are so dangerous, and yet the good and the love, like you've experienced.
Oh, I think they're here to totally help. I think they look at us as like Walt Disney World. And so they're like, okay, we need to go down and do a little damage control. They're out of hand.
Exactly.
I totally believe that.
If they wanted to do something, they'd have done it a long time
Oh,
ago.
yes.
They're advanced. That I've gotten a lot of contacts since this little incident, and a guy that actually works with them says they're 70,000 years more advanced than we are.
Right.
Oh my heavens!
And I think a lot of it is because we're here by free will, and so
Yes.
they don't want to interfere in the fact that we're here by free will. They
Good
they
point.
want to do good, but I think Earth is our mothership, and we're here to learn so we can evolve, and they can't get in the way of a free will.
Well, if they do something stupid here, though, it has a ripple throughout the universe.
Oh yes, it affects
You have
everything.
It'll throws everything off. So they just kind of, like you said, damage control.
Yes.
For the
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
Pardon?
very interesting concept. Every choice that is made has a consequence, be it a positive
Yes.
or a negative. So I'm sure they understand that quite well, probably better than all of us. It's something that we have to learn, and it's something that they already know. So I would tend to say yes. In my experience, I had a very profound spiritual experience with the Lord. How about you? What was your takeaway from it all?
At the point when that happened, I was a churchgoer. I believed in it, and I'd read it. After it happened, I got with my preacher, and we read several places in the Bible, Ezekiel, where it talks about a wheel and a wheel, that they was looking in the sky, and a craft of many faces. So it ties in with my religion as well. That's how I felt. I had a religious experience. I don't know if it could have been a god or gods. They may be what we think is God. Who knows? So left more questions.
I don't think that they think that they're gods at all, but from my experiences, and I have had several. My first one was in 1979, but then I've had many and found out that my family, in fact, has had 70 years of extraterrestrial intervention, an older brother, my mother, my son, myself. And through all of that, we've been able to see that these beings are not like us. We're created in the image of God. They're not, And I've often wondered, actually, are they here to mimic something? They're very advanced, but being advanced doesn't mean that they're equal or the same in any way, shape, or form. But I'm wondering if they're here to kind of find that spiritual connection. I've often wondered that, I don't know. But because you're sharing that love that you felt, like I had that love, and I've talked to so many people that have had these UFO experiences, and it was very positive. Very few people, even Travis Walton, now I know you've talked to Travis like I have many times, and he says he's the one that picked up the instruments and threw the instruments at them. He initiated negativity, and they still healed him. And he believes today that when he was taken, they had killed him, and they, healed him, literally, and brought him back. And it took him so many years to figure that out. And I think with all of us that are experiencers and those watching, please send us an email if you agree or disagree. We're interested to hear what you think. But from those of us who have had these experiences, even Kathleen Martin's aunt and uncle, the Hills, it takes a long time to grasp what actually happens in that moment.
Still processing it. And Travis is funny. He's the type that might resist. He's kind of, work crew out in the lumber, whatever they was doing out there. So that's kind of their, they're just scrappers. That's what they do for entertainment, y'all. So I can see where he was kind of resisting them or whatever was going on, and he didn't feel that whatever it is, the love that I felt.
Well, he was very young, Steve. He was very young.
And you didn't have a lot of people having experiences that anybody knew about either.
Right.
So.
Oh, brand new, yeah. I didn't know anything about it, period. Yeah.
Yeah, when you have nothing to compare it to.
Right.
And in talking with Travis, he said, I was showing off when I jumped out of the truck and ran towards the light. But getting into that stream that they were getting ready to take off, that stream killed him. And everybody else took off in fear, but he was picked up and taken on the craft and then healed and brought back. And it was a 5-day operation, which proves they're not gods, because God can heal instantaneously. So, they have limitations, but they're coming from a good place. Mm-hmm. So I have heard people share, I don't know if you have, share it with us if you have, that people have negative experiences. What have you heard?
I've heard a lot of negative experiences, that the people's been taken. There's a contactee organization where they share their experiences, and some are negative, very negative. Some are on the most part are positive. Kind of makes me think, I wonder if the negative ones might be our own operation, our own doings, or government. I hate to say it, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting concept. Yeah. I've never even thought of that before.
Just to keep fear in people.
A good concept, and it goes way back. Enoch was taken for like 30 days.
Yes.
And that was the first real Bible. They operated off of that for 200 or 300 years after the death of Jesus. And it's about 100 chapter, 100 page book.
Everybody should read it.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but it's great.
It's fascinating.
The whole Bible is condensed down into one small book there, more or less, and they basically opened their libraries and said, here, and taught him their knowledge. So quite interesting. It's funny, he's only mentioned twice in the real Bible. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do think that both Enoch and Elijah will be back as the two witnesses that are spoken of in Revelation, because they didn't die.
No.
They were taken.
Enoch walked right into heaven.
Yeah, he walked with God. As Elijah was taken in a fiery chariot.
Yeah.
Fiery. Very interesting.
I mean, that's the only word they had to describe what they were seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably a UFO.
I don't know.
The limited vocabulary they had, that's what they, they could. I saw a Southwest Flight 787 headed west or whatever, they just says fiery chariot in the sky, so.
Or a big bird.
Yeah.
Or,
Cloud.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just didn't have the adjectives and descriptions that we do now.
Well, I think they were quite knowledgeable, but I think that what they were sharing was that their experience, and ours are just very different because of the time differences, and they walked with God, whereas that isn't something that happens as much now. You don't hear of somebody being so righteous and so holy in this generation that they're taken, but both Elijah and Enoch were. Mm-hmm. And so it's a beautiful story, and I tend to believe it as it is. I don't know.
Funny, that's when people started living, in the Enoch, Methuselah, and Noah all lived quite a few years, and they did. One. Mm-hmm. One's the grandfather, which is Enoch, and
that's
then
right.
and Noah. It's a lineage deal, but each one of them made it to like 900 years. So
that's right. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I've so many interesting stories about that too, you know, because Methuselah finally passed away, and then the flood came. It's like he was the one thing, you know. Of course, that's getting into a whole nother realm. And so interesting to me because I absolutely adore that realm. And,
very
yeah. But I don't know that all our listeners are as intact with all of that, you know. But if they are, send us an email. I'd love to talk to you.
There's so much that people don't know. You just got to start going down the rabbit holes.
Yeah.
It'll blow your mind.
Start connecting dots and filling them in
There's
and
so
making
much more.
sense of things.
There's so much more.
We say we've lost more technology than we have, which is true. Look at the pyramids and stuff. So we've had helpers around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I doubt that those many, many, many ton stones were not dragged by little men.
Those were
little mere men.
frequencies that did that.
Those are frequencies, a higher power for
Yes.
sure, that put all that together. Oh my goodness, it's just amazing stories, and it could have been.
I would love to go to the pyramids one day.
I would never say that it wasn't
that would be
extraterrestrial intervention. I would never say that because it could very possibly have been. But the sands of time have covered up so much of those truths. You know, and archaeologists today are revealing from the sands of time, you know, they're bringing up the truth now. And it's changing how we look at everything.
Those could be our missing link on technology too. They didn't have them out there just to look at, so I think they was functional somehow.
Absolutely.
So what do
Or-
you what do you think about the recent disclosures that's coming out?
It's good. It's a start.
Yes.
I think that there's a lot of places in the world that has released everything they know. And so we're not releasing everything we know, so we're still hiding quite a bit of
Well,
it.
you know who releases the disclosure in the way that nobody really ever thinks about it, and that's Hollywood. Most of the stuff that Hollywood does is exact, and then the disclosure comes.
The Netflix deal is Steven Spielberg. He's the one that produced
Yes.
the one that owned. So
I think he's tapped into something.
I think you're exact. I think they tell him, yeah, here's what it looks like, what you want to do. So here's where we're headed.
Yes.
So
Because they know. I mean,
hopefully,
they know.
yeah, hopefully.
And it's the easiest way to do it. Oh, let's put it into a movie, because people are more accepting of a movie. You know, they're like, oh, you know, and that they will totally believe it and buy it and go out and see it and everything.
Plant the seed.
But if you just got on the news and told it, no, that wouldn't work. But a movie will work.
Country Southern people like us and our accent, you know, I'll tell those hicks, they'll put it out and people will believe that. So
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, and I personally think we individually may know more than our government is ever going to know.
Oh.
You know, I'm not sure I want to share everything I know.
There's so many
You know?
different levels of government.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it would be advantageous or prudent to share every little thing that I understand. But I know that this is why they are so attached to all of these sightings, because they want to know, what did you get? I know when we get data dumps, and it does happen. And they want to know, oh, what was that data dump? Because we're not privy to it. That's right, and they're not going to be until, like the one I got once, I was told that I had information, and when the time was right, I would have it to share. And they've taken the knowledge and the understanding of that I was given away from me. So it can't even be, you know, coerced out of me. When the time is right, I'll have the answer. It'll just come. And I think a lot of us who have had these experiences, and I wonder if you also, being so close and having such a powerful experience. It's the love experience, though, that is the clicker, so to speak. You know, something transpired there. Then you
Very
had the
possible.
dream. Then you had the dream. And you're still pursuing it. And how many years has it been? That was 2008. We're in almost 2024.
That was the point I was going to make earlier. I think once you've had that experience, it's like being bit by the bug. You're going to do everything you can to have that experience again because it's so awesome. It's like Starbucks.
And look what it's done to me. You saw what Kevin opened with. It's time has gotten me. I'm still after it though.
Yes. It's like you can't stop. I mean, think about it. You just...
It becomes a passion,
Yes.
if you will, you know.
I don't think they can dump all the information at once because they've been covering it up for so many years. So they've got to figure out how to correct what all they've told the people, you know. So
Well, they will have they'll never be able to figure that one out. I mean, they won't.
yeah.
Well, you know, it was
Rich-
really interesting with all of this, you know, the lights bursting into flames and everybody seeing it, the size of it. And
What about that plasma?
the plasma, right?
Yeah, the one man said that he could see a ring of plasma.
Did you see
What I
anything
saw-
like that?
What I thought it was similar to what he said that I didn't see the first time is when it came back by, it had two round orbs in the back and they was kind of like a glowing red amber. I looked at it as the propulsion unit is what I thought it was of whatever it was we was looking at. Because it wasn't, it was on deacceleration when it stopped at Stephenville and it was on acceleration when it left with the two F-16s chasing it. So everybody saw it. What we saw was just a little bit different from different angles, you know, so the descriptions was different. The times was right, the directions was right, but what people saw varied a little bit.
So what went through your mind when you saw the flames?
That's where it kind of spooked me, or I thought, why are we, what's it doing out over civilian airspace? And why is it here, you know? And what's going on? Didn't know if we was having a war of the worlds or we should worry about it or just go home and blow it off. So I was genuinely concerned. It rattled me.
Did you think it was blowing up?
I was wondering why it was here. That was my main concerns, is what it was doing here, and especially in that airspace. You know, it's not restricted airspace, but it's kind of civilian. It's near our little airport, so it just seemed ironic. You know, it's just out of place. The elephant in the room.
Yeah, in 1979, when I saw my craft, there was actually two. One hovered and one it was landed. But the one that was hovered, when it took off, I never saw the one over to the right take off, but I saw the hovered one take off, and it shot up and stopped, and the fireball came out from the base of it. I remember thinking, oh my God, is this going to come down and burn me? I mean, is this going to be how I die? I mean, what intention does that fire have? What's going on? And I was frightened for a very small time. And then it was like they, connecting with me, let me know you're not being burned. But very shortly after that, the fireball, as well as the craft, which had gone from this to this, took off. And my eyes didn't even get a nano blink, and they were gone. And that's how fast they went from 0 to gone. And it's so weird when the fire is there, you know, with the crafts, because you do wonder, what's that all about? You know, why would there even be fire? You know, and is it nuclear fire? What kind of fire is it? I actually heard a crackling. Did you hear anything?
What we saw and heard, we didn't hear anything, and the fire was exactly what, like you were saying, it went from a horizontal to a vertical, but there was sets of them in a giant rectangular box per se, and it burst into a flame, and then it just disappeared. It didn't streak off or anything; it just disappeared, and that's what we found was real ironic, you know. So part of what.
So again, here we are, 2023, and you're sharing something that validates what I saw in 1979. I was alone and no one else saw what I saw. It had decided to reveal to me. But I was also introduced to a tall white that was in the field at that craft. And until then, I was a church-going gal in the worship team, raising 2 babies, teaching them Bible school, you know, and I did not believe, and I remember saying to the Lord while I was there, you have got to be kidding me. Why would you show me this? I do not believe in this stuff. And I was shocked, amazed, and yet in awe, and a little bit afraid until the peace came in, you know, from the craft to me. But when I was raised up off the ground, I looked down and I thought, okay, this is, I didn't sign up for this. And then I saw the tall white and was taken over to the other craft. So every experience is uniquely different, but yet there are so many similarities.
Yes, yes. I've ran into quite a few people on my journey, and they do have those similarities. And you don't even have to look for them, really. You know, if you just stop and listen, you know, it's all there.
It truly is. My goodness, the time has flown. This has been so good. It's already been a whole hour. My goodness. And I have loved every second of this. And by the way, I think you look great. I don't think that craft did anything. Steve.
Thank y'all for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Wear your elastic waisted pants.
Why? Why?
What?
So you can eat
my
and
whole
eat
family,
and eat.
That's our thing. We send out the memo. Everybody wear your elastic waisted pants because you eat too much and you're miserable.
Yeah. And he's got the best crackers on the planet, trust me.
So that's my tip.
I remember those crackers. Those were great. Well, well, anytime you can get up here and visit Kevin and I, we invite you to come. Bring your wife and have a little vacay and come spend some time with us in the frozen north.
And I'm just around the corner from them.
That's right.
Thanks. Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
You too.
Well, yes, and so for all of you, thank you for being here with us, and please reach out to us. If you have any questions, just reach out to our email address and share your thoughts with us, and also who you would like to see on the show. And if you enjoyed tonight's show as much as we did, this was great. Reach out to us at hauntedparis@usa.com, and you can watch us on our YouTube channel, which is ea-tv.com. And you can find us, the Paris Paranormal, on YouTube as well with Enigmatic Anomalies. And join us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/@Paris Paranormal. And don't forget to make plans to join us here in Paris at the Convention Center in 2024 for Enigmacon. We're going to be doing that March 8th through the 10th. And you can get information on that, and we're going to get the tickets up and talk about our people that are going to be speaking. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, have a happy Thanksgiving.